march to the sound of thunder. Taurian banners raised high asunder. Steel on steel, you hear the echoes roar. Good times rhymes with war crimes evermore. Get off our lawn, Starling scum, we stand as one. You'd better run, paws of fury, hearts ablaze. War pugs thunder through the haze. From dusty plains to the jagged peaks, we guard our home through fire and sleet. No concordant will kneel or bow. Our cause is just, our time is now. Get off our lawn, Starling scum, we stand as one. You'd better run, paws of fury, hearts ablaze. War pugs thunder through the haze. We're snarling thunder, relentless charge. Our anthem shakes the void at large. Bulldogs of justice, sharp and bold. Our legacy's forged in myths untold. We howl for freedom, we rage for peace. Our battle cries will never cease. The war pugs rise, unstoppable tide. Together we conquer, side by side. Get off our lawn, Starling scum, we stand as one. You'd better run, paws of fury, hearts ablaze. War pugs thunder through the haze.
War Pugs!
Thunder haze.
Guys, it is Battletech Tuesday. What up? Guys, so Mitch was saying it is Burrito Tuesday at his house. Well, guess what? It was Burrito Tuesday here as well. We had like the hospitaler made some like pulled pork, something like that. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it was called. All I know, it was absolutely delicious. War Pugs, the bean is doing fine. And guess what's going to happen in the next few days? I am going to be checking out a way to basically put the bean on a shirt. Because the bean is the bean. I'm just saying. War Pugs, it has been requested several times. The Bushwhacker. One of the favorite names that I have for a mech, because I grew up, like I was a kid in the 80s and early 90s. And the Bushwhackers were a thing, okay? The Bushwhacker was a thing. You did Omelet Tuesday? Epic. That's pretty good. I like Omelet Tuesday. Guys, tomorrow I'm going to be doing another live stream. And this is going to be on Mike Burnfire's. God, I keep on screwing that up. It is going to be on the latest gun rants from our boy. Oh my goodness. So, War Pugs, it's Battletech Tuesday. I have been talking up a storm for the past 2 days, I have a very large group inside my I train people as, you know, my profession. You guys know, some of you guys know that. If you didn't, now you do. And essentially what's going on is I'm losing my mind. And I'm talking a lot, and I mean a lot. She asked me to tell her about the ideas for tomorrow, but my brain is empty. That is just the way it is. Brain empty, just complete and total, just junkyard of space. Guys, today we're going to be paying attention to a very special mech. This one's called the Bushwacker. Okay, apparently it's an ES big Red-40TECH. It's a medium mech. And it is actually one that I know the name of, which is kind of ridiculous. If I just did. I literally just told them. God. This is, you see, she doesn't pay any attention to anything I say. I literally say it here, and she just, you know, yeah, that's just how it goes. Think equals sad. Yes. Yes. Prophet of the 8th Legion. Guys, Prophet says, "Greetings, corpse slaves. Soon it begins my final reckoning. My great revenge is upon you, though you'll never notice the corruption but follow you. This is your masterpiece." Come on, dude. You're in Alaska. What are you gonna do? Freeze? Fight a moose? What? All right. So, thank you, Prophet. We're hoping for something for the Hospitaller soon, guys, and just hope the Hospitaller gets a bit of good news, because if the Hospitaller gets good news, it's going to be something great. Big Red-40TECH is in the house. We are going to be checking this out. Warpugs, I hope you're ready to enjoy. Oh, God! Big Red, Jesus! I was going to say, why don't you jump in? Just jump in Discord and, you know, we'll make a whole thing out of it. But, if you had your wisdom teeth pulled, Jesus, that sucks, dude. I know that. I know that. Red Hawk, I had my wisdom teeth pulled, and it was all that was needed to completely remove what was left of my sanity. We have misplaced the hat. And, it might not come back. Which means I will be bald. Forever. And ever. Why don't you just spread the beans, woman? Jesus. Anyhow, guys, it's time. Let's jump into it. This is the Bushwhacker. I know, Big Red, but you know what? A man can dream. I can look at myself in the mirror and at least believe something. At least believe. Yeah. You, like, every single time I mention cat girls, he crushes my dreams. I want to believe in the Canopian cat girls. The Hospitaller wants to believe in the Canopian cat girls. Why can't we all just get along? Where's the Bean? He is currently sitting in his heat lamp, honestly. He is currently sitting underneath his heat lamp. We're actually going to be building something to essentially move some of the birds out to the main area where we have them. But yeah, you say discount Mad Cat? Nice. And I already hear somebody typing, "It's a Timberwolf!" Okay, let's go. Guys, the Bushwhacker. And that is a very interesting symbol right there. The Pal World had... Stop trying to convince my wife to play Pal Girl. Pal World. Shutting up. Bean is too small for the outside. We're gonna have to build something special for the Bean, because he's actually tiny. Which is, he is ridiculously tiny for even a bantam at this point. Warpugs, X in chat if you're ready to hear about the Bushwhacker. Let's get ready to go. Nice. In other news, apparently there are plans to make a live-action version of the Bad Guys. No, we don't need a sequel to the Cats movie. That's the last damn thing that we need, period. Under any circumstance, we don't need it.
When is something good enough?
No, stop. No, we don't need that. We don't need that weirdness.
That's a question with more than one answer. It's really quite subjective. For some,
God.
there is an aim for perfection. If something is not exactly right, if it is not pieced together in the most superb fashion, and the results are not flawless, then what is the point of such a deeply troubled outcome? For another broad group of thinkers, the answer to the inquiry might be the most basic in principle. If the thing we are talking about does even half of what it's supposed to do, well, it's better than nothing.
This sounds like the design for any Russian aircraft in the history of ever.
And then there is, of course, those in between, or even those who we might be able to summarize their views in this instance as, it isn't graceful, and it isn't pretty, but it works. This leads us into the subject of this overview.
If it's ugly as fuck, but it does its job, who cares?
There are a multitude of truly legendary machines in the world of Battletech, but as far as inner sphere machines go, overwhelmingly most find their origins in the eras predating the living world of the setting. With the expansion of the world, and new machines emerging in the wake of the discovery of the Helm Memory Core and Clan Invasion, only a few mechs truly captured the imagination of those who indulge in the setting in its various forms. But the machine in this video is one with a longer backstory than one might imagine, and perhaps a story that doesn't reflect the value so many have placed upon it, at least at first glance. Popularity from the fans may not always translate into what you might imagine within the setting itself.
Okay.
The mech we now examine is the face of Technical Readout 3058, and is a battle mech born from lessons learned in the Succession Wars, and from know-how taken from the clans. It emerged from the fires of Tharkad's Industries itself, and is one of the most known mechs of the Federated Commonwealth, and later, the Lyran Commonwealth. In this piece, we are going to examine Tharhes Industries' distinguished, though perhaps underappreciated and underserved design, the Bushwhacker.
Okay, I could not make a video on the Bushwhacker flat out. I could not make a video about the Bushwhacker without having Butch and Jim walking to the ring in WWF era. You know, if you guys know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, if you're too young for that, I understand. But I could not do a video on the Bushwhacker without putting the Bushwhackers in there. I just couldn't. I know, right, Mad? A project most ambitious. Big Red, if you ever want me to come in and voice those segments for you, I got you, fam. Do my announcement voice. There you go.
The formation of the Federated Commonwealth, the union of the great houses of Steiner and Davian, created the most powerful state the Inner Sphere had seen since the collapse of the ancient Star League. While houses Davian and Steiner were truthfully not fully integrated, their coordination with one another militarily, economically, and scientifically nonetheless made them far deadlier together than they could have ever been as separate entities.
Honestly, I have not yet, JR. I haven't had a lot of time, to be honest with you.
The industrial and technological boom brought on by this union, and of course the discovery of the Helm Memory Core, saw a massive level of development in both sides of this new juggernaut of a state. Multiple refits of ancient designs were put into production with time, as the LCAF and AFFS merged more fully into the AFFC in the aftermath of the failed campaign against the Draconis Combine in 3039. During the 3040s, innovation was the watchword seemingly inside of the Inner Sphere, even as the stimulus of an outside threat urged the creation of new war machines as never before. Much as with the end of the Age of War or the early Star League, companies began to make huge amounts of money.
Sounds good, Big Red. Just let me know. Just let me know.
Based on their military contracts once more, as the entirety of human space began seeing a near future where it was assumed that a fifth succession war would begin.
Hooray!
The Federated Commonwealth would be on one side, and on the other,
everybody
seemingly
else.
Everyone else, including the theoretically impartial yet mysterious Comstar. Tharhas Industries during this time, and with knowledge now made available to them through the Helm Memory Core, embarked on an ambitious new project. New chassis were in the 3040s, still exceptionally uncommon for brand new battle mechs, even in early design stages. Some new machines, such as the Hatamoto Chi, even stole most of their base frame from other designs.
Impartial in quotation
Old
marks.
lost models went back into production from the now long-dead Star League. More than new battle mechs were brought online. In this state of pseudo-advancement, Tharhas Industries, a major manufacturer on the capital world of the former Lyran Commonwealth, now one of the two capitals of the United Federated Commonwealth,
Necron, the First Lord! All hail the First Lord!
opted to pave the way forward with the latter idea of progress. What they envisioned was a mech with a radically new body plan, as well as advanced Star League-era technologies. Breaking with traditional mech layouts, Tharhas' designers opted for a new low-slung, narrow battle mech, all while still installing an XL engine. This new machine was going to be elusive to enemy targeting systems as a result of its overall profile,
Okay.
while not reducing the quality of the frame, or compromising in terms of weaponry or maneuvering.
Okay.
The Bushwhacker came to life originally as a prototype in the late 3040s, notably prior to the clan invasion. The only real problem was, it didn't enter full production, and it never properly made it past a review or evaluation phase by the Federated Commonwealth.
Looks like a Fox
considered
leader.
its adoption. This new age design, you see, had a severe problem. An issue that engineers behind the project could not resolve. In order to shape the hull of the body,
I hear her laughing up there. I hear her laughing up there.
iPad the way they had. And in order to accommodate its advanced Hermes XL power plant, the mech's torso had become overburdened. The fusion engine's close proximity to its sensors and communication suites generated an enormous amount of internal interference,
That sucks.
which played absolute havoc on its onboard electrical systems. Target locks failed in trials, sensors would become overwhelmed at various points during tests, and nothing seemed to resolve this nagging issue. Even into the clan invasion itself, where the Federated Commonwealth was looking for new, advanced machinery to fight back against the invaders from beyond the Inner Sphere, Tharhas and its staff were just unable to get the Bushwhacker properly off the ground.
Hey, Black
During
Wolf.
this desperate time, multiple pre-production models of the Bushwhacker did
I'm sorry to hear that, bud. I really am.
find their ways into frontline units, but they did not have their internal issues resolved, and only tragedy could have come from that. Things took a dramatic turn, at least in the long run, during the clan's assault, however. With the successful counterattack on Twycross in 3050, a volume of technical specification schematics, as well as examples of battle mechs and other clan equipment, were brought into the possession of the Commonwealth. This cache of data and physical specimens included the details of a battle mech that was up until this point referred to as the Vulture by the Inner Sphere.
There we go.
This 60-ton devil was
What about the tsunami? What tsunami? Did something happen out there today? Did something happen out there today? Hold on a second, guys. I haven't heard anything about this. Oh. Okay, guys, if you're in Hawaii or if you're in Alaska, a 8.7 magnitude earthquake hit near Russia. There are tsunami alerts in Alaska and Hawaii. This happened close to 2 hours ago. Okay? So if you're in Alaska or Hawaii and you're near the coast, please go take a look at the news. I want you guys to stay safe, okay? Just do that for me if you will. Just make sure you're okay. Okay? And Japan as well. So I'll say it again, just so everybody hears. There was an 8.7 magnitude earthquake that just hit off the coast of Russia, and there are now tsunami warnings off the coast for Alaska, Hawaii, and Japan. If you are in that area, please check out the news. Just go off the stream, check out the news if you're there. And stay safe, Warpugs. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Like, that should get ignored. Do stay safe, Warpugs. Let's go.
Infamous for the damage it could inflict on formations, being almost as deadly as the legendary Mad Cat, yet 15 tons lighter. While researchers pored over these schematics and even examples, no major technological innovation could be garnered from these machines. Yet, at least regarding their highly advanced clan technologies. But they could be learned from. Once allowed to examine these exotic platforms, new Battletech designs would come to counter them, and they were constructed from across the inner sphere.
I almost did the row today. I almost did that one. I almost started up that one because it's Big Red's fan-made mech. I like it.
The 3050s became a great era of new chassis making their presence known. Even many of the more recent inner sphere designs from the 3040s, like the Mauler, were left behind in this frenzy of innovation.
Sadness.
The Bushwhacker, however, in its non-functional state, was also a great benefactor from this.
I really do like mechs that look like this with this general body design. I just like them. I'm sorry.
Because it turns out many of the problems the mech faced were solved through outside-the-box positioning within the Vulture, which had a similar internal layout for its engine and electronics. Tharhess rebuilt the interior of the Bushwhacker based on this information, and upon doing so, its onboard electrical issues were resolved.
Nice!
A once-thought expensive dead end could now be brought to market, and only 1 year after the end of the clan invasion, that is exactly what happened. Unfortunately for the Bushwhacker, there was a new problem now.
Oh, yay!
In that the threat it was going to be fighting had become inert. The Bushwhacker became adopted, despite its very strange use of a mixture of old and new technologies when it first came onto the scene in the BSWX1 variation. Just to give an example, it used advanced components in many portions of its construction, but it also used, bizarrely, an older model, heavier Miradon Model B autocannon, rather than a lighter weight LBX1. This would end up being very wasteful in regards to tonnage, and very limiting in terms of its engagement range and ammunition due to its increased weight. But it was a key sign that the BSWX1 was not designed with the clans in mind, and was very much somewhat still an intergenerational mech. Even in terms of its design ideals, in many ways it was built to use its speed and firepower at long range to pester or destroy enemy mechs. But that was provided in a lot of cases that they were fighting inner sphere mechs.
That's always a really good, distinction to make there.
Against the traditional enemies of House Steiner Davian and their surrogates.
Nice, Matthew.
The Bushwhacker proved to be more than capable when implemented in this long-range battlefield
It really
role.
does look like that.
The AFFC units, however, in raids and border skirmishes with their clan counterparts, discovered something quite different when using this mech doctrinally. Namely, that it was a death sentence. Clan mechs could not only easily keep pace with the Bushwhacker on average, they also outgunned it. And worse, they did so in their ideal range brackets.
Yay.
This left mech warriors assigned to BSWs during this period, all the way through to Operations Bulldog and Serpent, in quite a predicament. And they had to use the mechs extremely conservatively. Tactics pivoted to clinging to terrain features and favorable conditions, before engaging their clan counterparts with localized superiority, and often even at closer ranges. Alternatively, they limply used their limited LRM capacity to act as indirect fire mechs, if forced to fight at range, to avoid direct confrontation with their superior enemies.
Yay.
The Battletech, despite its frequent struggle with clan opposition, still became wildly successful. The Bushwhacker routinely was used to replace commonly lost medium mech forces from the invasion, helping to heal the inventories of units from the AFFC. Destroyed Griffin, Centurion, Shadowhawks, and others were replaced by either refits of their original design, or by the Bushwhacker. Mercenaries also lined up to procure this new, low and narrow profile battle mech as well, with them being found commonly in the hands of the average mercenary, but also in the claws of the Wolf's Dragoons and
Yay!
Hellhounds. With this success too, several meaningful variations of the mechs emerged in the 3050s, flowing into the waiting arms of their producers and their buyers. The biggest campaign the mech cut its teeth on during its emergence would be the destruction of Clan Smoke Jaguar in the Inner Sphere and Clan Homeworlds, where despite its weakness against its specific opponent, the mech's reputation persisted, making it a standout machine for the latter half of the clan invasion.
Black Wolf, the wife gets those, but what she gets is full-on Sparta kicks. That's what she gets. And I'll be sitting there trying to relax, and then all of a sudden, I'll just hear, meh, and then all of a sudden, I'll get kicked in the ribs. It's nice.
Tharhas had truly found success through its various configurations and multiple buyers. But nothing good seemingly can last forever, and unfortunately for the Bushwhacker, as well as unfortunately for the entirety of the Inner Sphere, the seeds had been sown for the collapse of the mighty state that had created the conditions for the mech to exist in the first place.
Sucks.
And only worse would follow that.
Auspicious beginnings. Bushwacker X1.
Designed and developed in the 3040s, but not reaching full production due to issues until 3053. The BSW X1 Bushwhacker is a 55-ton medium mech with mostly advanced Starleague technologies for its time of development.
Okay.
Built on the capital world of the layer and a half of the Federated Commonwealth, it has a solid reputation with the forces that employed it since it managed to get past its initial hurdles. To start our review of the base design, the BSW X1 has a standard internal structure, gyro, and cockpit. In other words, nothing advanced or special for this time.
Okay.
When it moves into its cooling regulation, things do shift slightly, as the Whacker has 11 double heat sinks, letting it dump 22 heat per turn. This lets it unload its entire weapons package and run without suffering any thermal consequences in a standard environment. This is very solid. As far as its once problematic electronic systems are concerned, the BSW X1 comes with a Tharhas Euterpe HM14 communications package, as well as a Tharhas Ares 8A targeting and tracking suite. Neither of these unfortunately confer the Bushwhacker any bonuses.
Okay.
But when it does come to advanced rules, the Bushwhacker as a whole only has one, and it only needs one, because it has a great feature, which is the narrow/low profile quirk.
Yay!
A very important aspect about the Bushwhacker is that it is relatively quick on its feet for its tonnage. Thankfully, the designers at Tharhas made sure that this attribute was not ignored, but embraced. With its weaponry generally geared towards long-range fighting, its mobility is extremely important for positioning and utilizing the X1 as it was intended, particularly against Inner Sphere medium and heavy mech forces. Its ability to go is also key for keeping it in formation with battle line Inner Sphere forces. In order to make all of this happen, a significant and sophisticated engine was put in place in order to drive this medium mech. Weighing in at 8 tons, the X1 is powered by a Hermes 275 extra light fusion engine, giving it a maximum speed of 86 kilometers per hour, or 8 movement points in the tabletop game.
Nice.
There is one drawback to this,
Of course.
which is while it keeps pace with Inner Sphere mediums and light heavies, and allows it to act well as intended, Clan medium mechs will more often than not outpace it, and will cause it no end of grief. And this says nothing of the famously agile clan heavies even. Still, this isn't something to be looked upon as a bad thing. It just means its mobility stat often is less influential when dealing with this particular type of adversary. There is one other issue here, not related directly to its mobility, but to its fragility.
Black Wolf, you have a great night, dude. Get some rest if you had a bad day. I'm sorry to hear that, bud. I hope you have a better night, alright?
In that its XL engine, being an inner sphere type, means that if it loses a side torso, the mech will be knocked out.
XL
It
engines.
also means that the Bushwhacker is more likely to take critical hits to the engine just in general as well. Overall, despite some issues with expected opposition, and despite the shortcomings of an XL engine, the Bushwhacker still very much wins in the mobility category.
Nice.
It is just important to remember that it comes at a cost. You would think that a relatively mobile, long-range fighting machine would have to make a sacrifice somewhere, but in this case, almost not really.
Oh.
When it comes to defense, the Bushwhacker...
No, Hank Hill. No. No, 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 no. Do not do this.
For instance, is quite well guarded for its tonnage, especially when factoring in its relative grace. So, to begin with its hardened outer carapace, Thar has opted to slather it in 9 tons of Kalon Unity Weave ferrofibrous plating, giving it 161 points of armor. This is the equivalent of 10 tons of standard material, and ensures that the X1 is actually quite sturdy when it comes to its outer layers of protection. Then when combining this attribute with its movement defensive bonuses, this can make it quite difficult to wear down overall. However,
I understand that, Black Wolf. I really do, my guy.
there is another issue. There's an abundance of ammunition on board, inside of its side torsos.
Oh.
These side torsos are protected by case, limiting ammunition explosions to localized areas. What's the issue, you may ask? Well, when it comes to an immediate battle, if it loses a side torso, it will immediately compromise the mech's engine and knock it out. Now,
Yay.
case will save the entire chassis from being destroyed, and over a long campaign, this increases the chances of the mech being salvaged and rebuilt. But in an individual engagement, this means an ammunition explosion, typically in either torso, still means, despite case, the immediate destruction of the mech on the battlefield.
And the good thing about it is, because you have case, your enemy gets to salvage your mech now. Yay!
Still, the Bushwhacker with its speed and armor is no slouch. It is well guarded overall. It simply has a weakness that can rear its head when combined with its XL engine. Its internals are very susceptible to critical hits, and can quickly remove it from a fight. Admittedly though, measures are taken, with case to protect the pilot, as well as to increase the chances of the mech's hulk being recovered and refit. You just likely won't notice that or care if you lose a side torso in the midst of a battle you are commanding.
Yeah.
The legacy of its 3040's development unfortunately once again lingers when it comes to the BSW X1's offense. So far in the armored triangle, despite some quirks, you'll see the Bushwhacker is still an overall win. It's agile, and it's pretty well protected. When it comes to its armaments too, it's actually not badly gunned either.
Okay.
However, it does use an unfortunate and older choice in regards to its primary offensive weapon. Before getting into it, it's important to note that the Bushwhacker is built for long-range, standoff engagements. Ideally, the mech doesn't want to go toe-to-toe on the battlefield. It's not built for it. Against clan targets, it usually will engage at closer ranges due to necessities and changes in tactics.
Okay.
But ideally, the mech is meant to slug it out with its opponents at long distances. Its primary attacking system is its right-arm-mounted Miradon Model B autocannon. A legacy weapon by the time of the 3050s, this cannon is heavier than an LB-10X autocannon, has a shorter range, and takes up more critical space.
The question for me is why would they put that weapon on this mech? Why would they have done that? It doesn't make any sense for them to have done that. But at the same time, maybe that's all they had, I guess. I don't know. It just seems kind of off, to be honest. Abundance of ammo, that might be a good explanation as to why, but for me it just doesn't make a lot of sense as to why they wouldn't have done that par for the course. Now, I'm a fan of the autocannon. I'm the fan of the autocannon, the AC-10, but at the same time, if you have a better weapon that's lighter and isn't as much of a hindrance on the battlefield if it takes a smack with your admittedly, critical, vulnerable mech, why wouldn't you do that?
It has almost no redeeming features whatsoever in comparison to its newer replacement model. Worse, because it weighs more, it also restricts the mech from having the potential for LB cluster rounds. It also limits how long it can operate, as it cannot afford more than 1 ton of autocannon ammunition.
Oh, that's bad.
How heavy the cannon is. It's also...
See, that just makes it worse. That just actually makes it worse. And especially with the heat sinks of this thing. I mean, with the heat sinks of this thing, yeah, reverb, but PPC would have been a better option at that point. You might have had to sacrifice some problems with heat, but at the same time, it wouldn't have been that crippling overall.
The shortest ranged weapon on board in comparison to its other primaries, but it does hit the hardest. This puts the Bushwhacker in such an awkward position, as the BSW X1 would literally be a fantastically better battle mech if there was an official variant that upgraded this autocannon just straight over to an LB-10X. Still, the cannon hits hard. It's just such a bad...
Okay, so DJ, we're not saying that it shouldn't have an AC-10. We're saying the type of AC-10 installed on this thing is just not worth, like, compared to other weapons type, it's the weight, it's the critical mass on it, it's the critical parts that could get damaged on an already critical vulnerable mech, and there's literally no downside to it. So we're not saying, no AC-10, we're saying that you have a choice between a musket that fires the shell and a 4-bore. Which one are you going to choose? I mean, you're going to choose the 4-bore every single time. It literally just doesn't make any sense.
Baffling choice for its era,
especially if you have a choice in the matter.
Can only be viewed as a holdover from its 3040s development phase. After this,
see, this is the kind of stuff I'd like. This is the kind of stuff I need to know more of. In terms of stuff, because the brandings of the weapons and stuff like that, I'm starting to really get kind of a handle on. But this right here just doesn't make any, like, just based off what the little limited amount I know about, standard AC-10 versus AC-10, it's just kind of, it's weird.
For continued direct fire at range, the X1 has a Blazefire Sweet Shot extended range large laser in its center torso. Normally, Intersphere ER large lasers are poor performers, but in this case, because all of the Whacker's remaining weaponry is ammunition fed, this hot-running weapon has the room to breathe to be somewhat effective, even if it's a lot of tonnage for only 8 damage. It pairs well with the autocannon, I should also add. As the final systems, as far as mainline weaponry is concerned, the X1 has a pair of federated 5-shot LRM missile launchers, with one in the left torso and one in the left arm. These complement its other systems, and let it also attack indirectly too.
Okay.
It does only have 12 rounds of fire per launcher, but they do add much needed follow-ups to its autocannons and lasers.
Okay, so seriously, at this point, this thing is looking less and less like a good idea. This is looking less and less as a good idea, because this thing could not be built for sustainment in any kind of prolonged campaign. Now, 12 rounds, it is decent, But see, this is why I'm a fan of. This is why I'm a fan of laser boats. That's why I'm a fan of them. I'm just saying. Random video editors, thank you, bud. Have I seen Melody Sheep's Engineering Earth yet? No, I have not. I actually didn't even know it was out yet. I actually didn't know he had already put that out. I've been waiting on it, like, for some time now. But thank you for letting me know. I'll have to check it out because I've been waiting.
For dealing with infantry and lighter targets, the Bushwhacker also has a pair of side torso mounted machine guns. These will chew through infantry or crit fish targets that come too close to the mech. The biggest advantage of the loadout, despite not potentially punching as hard as some more...
I'm slow, Random. I'm slow. What can I tell you? I'm bald. That's the only excuse I have.
For dedicated fighters, is that it can alpha strike every turn without a second thought, and that is important. Not needing to worry about heat every round is definitely an advantage.
I love the alpha strike. What can I say?
Laser and LRMs also do respectable, though not heavy damage, if all can be narrowed in on one target. In a multi-target engagement too, it should always have a round to go somewhere, letting it fire off shots as needed. Overall, the loadout, despite some of its shortcomings, is deceptively effective. The Bushwhacker is a very capable addition to any lance that it is attached to, barring dedicated recon ones. Why is that? It's well protected. It can fight at long range and is well suited to splitting fire between multiple targets even. It is extremely well cooled, combining ammunition and laser weaponry to make the most of its thermals. It's also able to keep up with its allies under most conditions, and when combining this all together, it can directly engage most enemies on its terms. That makes for a powerful battle mech to be sure. Its reputation is well earned, but this of course doesn't mean that it isn't without its shortcomings, as we've documented in this piece. To go over that once again though, its XL engine can be a liability, and its ammunition can make it even more vulnerable. Also, its AC-10 is a strange choice for a primary cannon, when an LB-10X would be superior in every way. It also doesn't always measure well against clan mechs, even by inner sphere mech standards.
That hurts.
However, in spite of this, it's almost always a valuable addition to the lance. In fact, it also, like the Centurion of the Succession Wars, acts as a great force multiplier, with Bushwhackers supporting other Bushwhackers. All in all, it's very impressive, even if at first glance it may seem awkwardly gunned. Its popularity can't and doesn't just stem from its appearance.
Thank you, Prophet. You're back. Yay. Prophet, you're in Alaska. Please check the news, my guy. Please check the news. There's a tsunami most likely headed your way, so please check the news.
The BSW X1 is a very capable fighter when handled well. The first major variation of the Bushwhacker put into production after the original by Tharhas, and first deployed in 3054. 1 year after the X1 became available, the BSW X2 is an interesting remix of the original's weaponry. The only changes come to the arsenal. Slipping out its ER large laser, the X2 replaces it with several alternative options.
Okay.
First, it adds a second LRM-5 to the left torso, increasing its LRMs to 3 LRM-5s instead of 2. And then it adds 2 medium pulse lasers to the center torso. There is also the removal of a single double heatsink to make all of this fit. Overall, this is honestly a less impressive machine. It's more up-close oriented due to the pulse lasers, and they work well with the autocannon. But 2 medium pulse lasers in an AC-10 is not particularly heavy armaments for close fighting.
No.
At range, it doesn't increase its LRM-5's ammunition, meaning that it only has 8 rounds per launcher, making it a short-term presence on most battlefields. And denying its launchers enough ammunition to be properly fed means it's less likely to allow the pilot to take shots that aren't guaranteed to hit. Overall,
it's like the X2 is a nerf of the X1, to be honest with you. Removing the large laser is a big hit. and the two medium lasers don't really do much when you're talking about a standoff engagement mech.
Well, the X2, at least in my view, has problems. It's less clearly focused to one idea, and its ammunition situation is even more dire than the
Prophet, what the world is wrong with you, my guy? Thank you, bud.
X1s, making it an odd upgrade. They really should just replace the AC-10 with an LB-10X, but sometimes some developers are just too stubborn to listen.
Let's go. S2, let's go.
In the universe of Battletech, it appears that Tharhas Industries is just really stubborn,
Ha!
and is incapable of just giving an easy upgrade to a machine that would make its mech warriors happier and safer, without some other additional changes that reduce their efficiency. Because in the case of the BSW-2S, first put into operation in 3056, the Lyran manufacturer...
Am I reading this right? You switched out the twin LRM-5s for a pair of S... Why? It's a long-range engagement platform!
relented and provided the Bushwhacker with an LB-10X autocannon. Though, they just happened to also change its missile packages to be less worthwhile for supporting the mech. Once more mirroring the base model almost entirely, barring the addition of an anti-missile system to help increase its protection. This Bushwhacker only makes a few changes to its weapons loadout. The 2S retains the ER large laser, and upgrades the AC-10 to the much-needed LB-10X, but then unfortunately replaces its LRM-5s with SRM-4s.
This is why the Lyrans can't have anything nice? Yes. I am fully accepting of that right now. I am fully accepting of that right now. Good God. Why would you do this? Just, if you're going to make a mech focused on a singular task, why are you putting weapons on it that don't have anything to do with that task? It's a fast, long engagement platform. Let it be a fast, long engagement platform. The Lyran Commonwealth spends huge money on mid-tier battle mechs. I'm beginning to notice that.
Decidedly turning the Bushwhacker into a close-range battle mech as a result.
And it's not even built for that!
Where it can engage targets at long range with its autocannon and laser, before striking them with missiles in close. However, is the Bushwhacker ideal for this kind of combat? This places it much more into a mixed role when it comes to fighting. And there are virtues to that, but it does abandon part of its role as a dedicated long-range support and strike platform. Having a mixed role can be helpful, but one must remember, it's still filled with ammunition, and still has an XL engine.
Yeah!
Getting in close and personal with other mechs often exposes the mech to more fire, and may, under more conditions, make the BSW series weaknesses more pronounced. Still, no one wants to get lit up by a large laser, an LB-10, and twin SRM-4s, as that damage is hard to ignore.
A change in management.
Divorces are ugly things.
Yeah.
People begin to divide what belongs to who, and sometimes there can be lengthy court battles about the now divided couple.
Yep.
Well, the Federated Commonwealth, the merged Federated Sons and Lyran Commonwealth, was about to undergo this personal tragedy on a national scale.
Hooray!
Without delving into every aspect of this calamity, it is necessary to understand some of it, to see how the Bushwhacker survived in some form until the latter eras of history. After the death of first Prince Hans Davian, and after the assassination of Melissa Steiner by her own daughter Catherine Steiner-Davian no less, the Federated Commonwealth was left on borrowed time. Victor Steiner-Davian, the only Archon Prince of the Federated Commonwealth, through the complexities of having to navigate the two realms, waging war on the clans and being undermined by his sister at home, was unable to save House Steiner-Davian from catastrophe. Catherine seized power on Tharkad in 3057, after Victor's disastrous handling of diplomacy with the Free Worlds League resulted in Operation Guerrero, and she would reforge the Lyran Commonwealth into the Lyran Alliance.
Hooray.
This all took place on the eve of the destruction of Clan Smoke Jaguar, and the victory of the Inner Sphere in the Great Refusal. But, once those accounts were settled, a new war began.
Because of course. Because of course. Because why would we take 5 seconds to not beat the hell out of each other for no reason other than who wants to sit in a chair?
During all of this, the Bushwhacker had become popular with the units that had deployed it, notably and particularly being popular in the Draconis and Capellan marches, two regions in the Federated Sun.
Kathy needs to calm the fuck down. Somebody get her some Starbucks and a chill pill. Get her some fucking... Let her listen to lo-fi and get her a yoga mat for fuck's sake. Get her a puppy. Something. Just stop breaking shit.
Half of the Federated Commonwealth. And there is the main issue, as with the fracturing of the two states, and with the civil war that emerged as a result of Catherine's...
There you go! Mad! Perfect idea! Get her laid! Come on!
...play for power. Tharmas Industries soon lost one
Dietrich.
of its two largest customers. At least for a time, as things descended into madness. The Bushwhacker was one of the boots the now Lyran Alliance used to stamp down on its enemies. Against the Jade Falcons, these saw service in the vicious battles for Coventry. In the Fedcom Civil War, they
Oh, God. Oh, damn it, man. Oh, it sure is feeling Targaryen up in here. Oh, oh, oh. Oh. We must keep the bloodlines pure. Things that make you go, ugh.
fought on both sides.
Oh, no, stop it. Oh, I didn't need that. Oh, God. Ugh. All right.
Support and numbers on the Catherine side of the equation, as
Oh,
well as with the support of
now I can't even hear her name without cringing.
new, deadly configurations from Tharkad, set on the domination and destruction of anyone who challenged the new Archon's rules. The Civil War dragged on for years, with cities and societies falling into ruin.
Stop! Just stop, Big Red. Jesus Christ, why do I need to know this? I didn't need to know this. I didn't want to know this. I have things in my brain that... Oh, God, the Habsburg Battletech edition? Yeah. Oh. What the hell is wrong with the Steiners?
Sarhas and multiple other Lyran
Well, that
manufacturers
Steiner.
benefited in the short term in many ways. But there was a price to be paid for this
Oh, good. I need emotional support, cat. Come here. Come here, you. Come here, emotional support, cat. There. There. Be emotional support, cat. There. All right. I have my emotional support cat right now. There it is. Oh my God. What? Frederick Steiner makes a genuine... And I can just hear the clanners sitting there going, free birther.
excessive violence. In 3067, the Fed...
This is what you get when you get to have kids. That's what the clanners would say up and down and just point to the Steiners.
Civil War ended, and ended with the defeat of the usurper Catherine Steiner Davian. However,
I'm learning way too much that I didn't know 15 seconds ago and didn't need to know. Oh, God. Oh, God. Stop talking. Okay. We're done talking about breeding in Battletech now. We're done talking about breeding in Battletech. I'm learning way too much that I didn't need to know. Oh my God. Why?
The conflict broke the Second Star League, of which it was a
And I swear to God, the first person that says ooh gets nuked.
part. The one which had formed in response to the clan invasion. The one which had
I need the
delivered
mind
death
cleanser.
blow.
Nuke him! Nuke him now! Nuke that man! Oh, God. I know I love lore, but there's some lore I don't need to know.
To Clan Smoke Jaguar. And with
Oh, Clan Smoke Jaguar. That takes on a whole... Oh.
which had won the Great Refusal. The word of Blake,
There should have been a lot more great refusals.
the religious-oriented order of Comstock, intervened in this disruption of their plans and prophecies, and turned on the inner sphere, beginning the Blakest era.
Somebody get me a fire starter. I need enough gasoline to burn these thoughts from my brain now.
Great House suffered. The invading clans, which had settled in the inner sphere, suffered. Worlds burned to the ground in nuclear fire, or were contaminated with biological weapons which saw the destruction of whole populations. Battles raged for years more here, before the Word of Blake was finally defeated. But Tharkad and Tharhess Industries were left broken.
Oof.
The Word of Blake badly scarred Tharkad,
Oof.
and much of the industrial capacity of its most prominent manufacturer, Tharhess. Now in desperate need of rebuilding and repair, unfortunate options would be measured. In a
Now they're-
crisis, especially one where capital is badly needed, there's always those who will help the downtrodden, but often at a high price.
Of course.
In order to save themselves, Tharhess had to liquidate its assets and sell off valuable intellectual property and rights. In this instance, they sold the Bushwhacker's plans, and the rights to use those plans, to one Coventry Metalworks.
Oh.
The only question was, in the post-Word of Blake era, what would come of it, and what would become of the Bushwhacker?
Bushwacker L1.
A major overhaul of the X1, the BSW L1 doesn't pretend to be anything other than what it is. What is that? Why, it is a relatively quickly moving autocannon. Perhaps mirroring the Hunchback more than the original Bushwhacker.
Okay.
The L1, first built and deployed in 3067, and exclusively used for the Lyran Alliance of the time. This Steiner-only 55-tonner is very straightforward. It changes out the original standard structure for more effective endo steel, and drops its ferrofibrous in favor of 11.5 tons of standard plating, giving it even more armor.
Okay.
To make the mech even hardier, it even sees its engine drop down from a 275 XL to a 275 light fusion engine. The real
Okay.
challenge is in its weapons package, because the L1, as mentioned before, has more in common with a Hunchback than a traditional Bushwhacker. The main weapon it retains from the original is an ER large laser. Then it has a right arm mounted LB-20X autocannon with 3 tons of ammunition and a case. It literally runs around, firing solid shots and cluster rounds, basically out of what amounts as an extended range AC-20. While this may not always be the most effective system, there is no one that can deny the fear a cannon of this size can generate. And you can't argue how effective it is when its hole blasting or sand blasting capability is left to run wild.
LBX-20.
In other words, the L1 moves like a Bushwhacker, is armored like a heavy, and strikes like a Hunchback.
Nice.
That is absolutely devastating.
Yeah. The Steiners turn around and do some dumb shit, and then they produce something like this.
Technological advancements during the decades since the introduction of the original Bushwhacker did see one of its variations. The S2 get a major overhaul during the Blakist era.
Okay.
First deployed in 3075, the BSW S2R is incredibly similar to the original S2. In fact, it retains just about everything about it.
Okay.
But there is a few major differences. The large laser and an SRM-4 are dropped, and are replaced by a truly nightmarish weapon of the new age. The Inner Sphere's plasma rifle. This rifle literally kills just about anything it strikes, and even causes more heat damage to enemy mechs. While it only has a single ton of ammunition, this is more than enough for the S2R to scorch and sear its way through anything that gets in its way.
Have fun.
In a short-term engagement. The main drawback of this variant is that it is entirely ammunition dependent. Not a single system on board can operate without being fed. This means if a fight goes on for too long, or the mech can't get resupply at some point during a campaign, it will face severe challenges.
This is a problem. Hold on. The cat wants to... Throwing down the gauntlet.
With the rights of the Bushwhackers sold to Coventry Metalworks after the cataclysm of the Blakist era,
Sure. Ow!
Coventry, being another one of House Steiner's incredibly prominent manufacturers, now found themselves in possession of very capable schematics, and with the rights to do whatever they wanted with them, paying for such a design, especially paying enough to help a struggling, crippled counterpart, that something needed to be done with this new asset. The only problem was with this line of thinking, is that it didn't happen nearly quickly enough. A new mech was proposed by Archon Adam Steiner approximately at the turn of the new century,
Nice.
when he stated that the Lyran Commonwealth needed a medium mech that honored the Lyran spirit. This wasn't necessarily a direct proposal for a specific...
Honored the Lyran spirit. So it's going to cost a shit ton, be outfitted with crap weapons, be produced en masse, weigh 20 tons heavier than it needs to be to do its job, and essentially, yeah. Okay, so this thing's going to suck, all right? This thing is going to suck.
specific design, but it did create the circumstances where Coventry Metalworks made an effort to fulfill this request. Coventry knew where the money was, and fulfilling the wishes of the Archon was definitely a safe bet. They already had a legendary Lyran battlemech, the Bushwhacker, to hand, and
They had the Banshee too.
the rights to do whatever they wanted with it as per their agreement with Tharhas. So, why not transform the Bushwhacker into the very project that the Archon had requested? An
Okay.
attempt had to be made. An attempt is the key word here, because the process of creating a medium omnimech in honor of the Lyran spirit apparently doesn't take a handful of years. It takes a handful of decades. To say their new project was mired in a troubled development cycle is perhaps understating just how poor the situation was.
Great.
It's also more than ironic that the Bushwhacker was used as the basis of the new machine, when
Okay.
it too had an extremely troubled development cycle, albeit one far less disastrous than its omnimech successor. The battlemech that came out of this process was known as the GTL-10 Gauntlet. It's important to state that we don't know the full reasoning behind its delayed deployments. One thing is clear, which is that it struggled with persistent technical problems throughout its development.
That looks like a Terminator suit from 40K and a Marauder had a baby and then peed on it.
Meaning that Coventry, despite all of their experience, struggled to work the bugs out of the mech for an extended period of time. Apparently, its life support system is also of a questionable level of quality, meaning that it may be one of the persistent problems that were only adequately or inadequately addressed in this process.
It seriously looks like a Terminator from 40K and a Marauder had a baby and peed on it. I mean, it really does look like that. Look at this right here. That looks like a Terminator faceplate. It looks like it has half a locust body. I don't even know what kind of legs these would be. I'd say Marauder legs. Yeah.
We also know that senior generals were unimpressed by Coventry's work on the mech, and that they directly opposed its adoption during this time, or at the very least made further demands from it, likely grinding its progress to a halt several times.
Yeah.
What emerged from all of this in 3128, only a few years before the HPG blackout, was an exclusive Lyran design, and one which is very different from the original Bushwhacker in almost every one of its omnimech configurations. It uses very different technologies on board, and puts an even greater emphasis on speed. But these changes come at costs elsewhere. The greatest single strength the Gauntlet offers, on a strategic level, is that it is an omnimech. In other words, it can be reconfigured before every engagement to better suit the needs of the environment it is being sent into. This means that the mech can shift from a sniper to a brawler, or other categories, if needed, without having to bring extra mechs to do it. The weakness of Omnitech is that even when produced at scale, the increased costs associated with it can outweigh this advantage.
Okay.
And its individual configurations may not be as on point as a traditional mech, or traditional variations.
Okay.
Still, the Gauntlet was plunged into the fires of war during the Dark Age after Grey Monday, and participated in every major campaign the Lyran state asked of it, even as the state itself collapsed under the strain of mismanagement and war. The Lyran Commonwealth during the Dark Age was savaged. Many industrial hubs were disrupted or badly damaged. Whole regions began to break off, taking with them valuable and necessary war-making centers. Multiple worlds were conquered by clans Wolf and Jade Falcon, as they rampaged without any meaningful resistance throughout the Commonwealth. House Steiner itself functionally broke down, with Archon Melissa Steiner II dying, and even at one point prior to her death, the Archon ship fell into the hands of House Brewer. But in this discord and destruction, Coventry held, and its banner remained loyal to the embattled and flagging House Steiner. This means while other worlds' supplies were delayed, or never even made it, the steady stream of gauntlets continued to find their way into Lyran units during this era, and into the new one. For better or for worse, the Gauntlet is the omnimech Adam Steiner requested, in a sense.
Okay.
And it is one of the main medium battle mechs of its generation to try to hold up the failing Colossus, whose image it was created in.
Let's go. GLTGL 10 Gauntlet.
An inner sphere medium omnimech weighing in at 55 tons. The Gauntlet is an example of trying to overcharge the Bushwhacker's mobility and armor using new, advanced technologies.
Okay.
Using sophisticated equipment for the late 31st century, and then implementing them into a mass-produced runner has a lot of potential. To begin our look at it, let's start with its base components. It has an endosteel internal structure, followed up by a standard gyro and cockpit.
Alright.
Endosteel's a great way to save weight, and the Gauntlet is hungry for it. After this, it has a base level of double heat sinks, letting it vent 20 heat per turn. As far as pod space is concerned, for an omnimech, the GLT-10 has 21 tons of space. To give some perspective, the exceptionally lethal Stormcrow clan omnimech has 23 tons, though it is also supporting clan-grade weaponry, whereas the Gauntlet is not. On the electronic sides, it has a Cyclops 24XS adaptable communications package, and a Cyclops special limited targeting and tracking system.
Okay.
Neither of these do much for it in terms of special rules, however. In those advanced rules, the Gauntlet has the poor life support quirk and rumble seat.
That sucks.
The latter just means that it can have a passenger in the cockpit, but no one who acts as a secondary pilot or anything. They're just along for the ride.
That really sucks.
Also, it lacks the low profile quirk, which means it's inherently less survivable.
Oh my god. It's a Steiner mech, and they said to make it to be like the Lyran Commonwealth. You can bring the family. I hate myself.
Than the
I hate
Bushwhacker.
myself.
The most important single feature of the Gauntlet is its movement profile, as this is where the most thought seems to have been placed within the machine.
Okay.
The Gauntlet was built to run, it would seem. It is powered by a 12-ton Defiance 275 light engine, giving it a maximum speed of 86 kilometers per hour or 8 movement points in the tabletop game, much like its ancestor. The only thing is, after this, Mask is installed, letting it achieve speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour or 10 movement points.
Okay.
For short bursts, to be clear. This is agile for its tonnage in this era. However, one must remember, Mask, if it's engaged and the pilot is unlucky, or it is engaged too often, can blow out the mech's legs. So, this is a huge risk for the mech if it's pushed too hard by circumstance or by ignorance. The light engine...
It's piloted by Lyran Commonwealth pilots. Mech warriors. Wow. Wow.
Is a great inner sphere compromise from the prior century, letting the engine save weight, but not taking up so much critical that the mech is immediately destroyed upon torso loss. It more or less has the critical footprint of a Clan XL engine. Still, the idea behind its potential mobility is to allow the Gauntlet to use it to keep the ideal range, and to get the most return out of its firepower, or to use it for defensive purposes. Quite well guarded for a 55-ton machine, the GLT-10, being an omnimech, mostly utilizes armor in its base chassis to protect itself.
Okay.
It is noteworthy to state, however, that some configurations add additional features in order to further defend the battle mech from incoming attacks.
Okay.
To get back on point, absorbing another chunk of its critical space, the mech opts to invest in Lexington Limited Light Ferrofibrous armor. Now, inner sphere technologies normally would prevent a mech from loading too many critical hungry technologies into one body, but as this is light ferro, which is not as helpful as standard ferro, its critical burden is lower. It is covered in 10 tons of the material, which means the Gauntlet has 169 points of armor. To be honest, this is not that much armored protection, at least not that much more than standard plating. More or less by having this specialist armor, it has an extra half ton of protection. Still, the manufacturer believed its limited remaining critical space would be enough for it to flexibly arm the mech. Something I don't entirely agree with. In total, it can lean on its mobility and its armor to keep its frame protected.
I'm not seeing a minivan. I'm not seeing that right there, Fox Leader.
And it can reasonably do so under most conditions.
Okay, I can accept that. Gauntlet Prime? Prime?
In its prime configuration, the Gauntlet more or less is just 2 weapons and a supercharger. And while it may seem appealing at first glance, it also is a underperformer, in my opinion. Its 2 systems are both arm-mounted, with a heavy PPC in the right arm and a Thunderbolt 10 in the left arm. The heavy PPC is definitely the heavier hitter, as it strikes targets with the ferocity of a Gauss rifle. It can head clip and puncture armor, there is no doubt. The left arm is a 10 damage missile, an individual missile. The real problem with the Thunderbolt system in general is that AMS systems are very effective against them, and AMS is not wholly uncommon by the era of the Gauntlet's implementation.
Hooray.
Beyond this, it has a case for its 1 ton of ammunition, as well as a supercharger. The supercharger is basically a mask, but for the engine. And when engaging this, the Gauntlet can move up to 100 kilometers per hour or even 120 if it and the mask are engaged at the same time. It can also alternate between the two, limiting the risk the mech may face when activating these features. Overall, it adds to the mech's movement profile. The real problem with this mech? If the Gauntlet Prime loses an arm, suffers a mask issue or even a supercharger issue, or faces a mech with AMS, it's just a 55-ton heavy PPC. An expensive 55-ton heavy PPC. There are other mechs.
This is This is legitimately the Steiner mech. This is the Lyran Commonwealth's mech. Overpriced. Overpriced. Massively undergunned. I mean, I can't. Okay.
That move the same base speed and hit much harder in the same approximate bracket. So it becomes harder to say that this configuration does much to justify its cost. A lucky headshot is always great to see, but if the GTL is banking on it, it's going to have problems. Much more balanced than the Prime configuration, the A variant of the Gauntlet is very straightforward, and strangely symmetrical, as most Bushwhackers typically aren't. Its loadout is really almost like a miniature Mad Cat, strangely enough.
Okay.
Split between the arms are a pair of light PPCs, and between the torsos are two MML7s.
Okay.
Each launcher has 2 tons of ammunition dedicated towards it, and a Case 2 protecting these stocks of ammo. It's relatively balanced, and can choose to engage with SRMs or LRMs, basically.
Okay.
This is probably the strongest version of the Gauntlet, and resembles the original Bushwhacker, with additional flexibility added to it, given that it can switch from LRM-7s to SRM-7s, which really can't be ignored by its enemies. If it can keep at range, using strikes with PPCs and LRMs as needed, and if things get in close, it can blanket fire its opponents with waves of short-range missiles. Better yet, if it really needs to up its speed, it can boost itself with Mask. It's very solid.
For something like this, you either want to do one or two things. You just want a long-range engagement platform, flat out, just like the Bushwhacker was designed like, or something, just say screw it, put an AC-20 on it, put the mask on it, let it run up at 120 kph and literally just blast you in the face and run off. Reload, rerun, blast, off. Let's go.
Also, amusingly,
Let's stop fucking around here, okay? Let's stop screwing around and let's just do the damn thing then.
this is the lowest battle value version of the Gauntlet. Meaning not only do I think it outperforms its peers, it is cheaper than them too.
Nice. Let's just throw an AC-20 on and call it good.
Apparently this is the fan favorite version of the Gauntlet,
Oh.
the B configuration, and it is a very simple machine. Before delving into its weaponry, let's start with its other features.
Cool.
It has a Guardian ECM to help its defense. It also has a targeting computer to help its attack. 5 jump jets are installed to assist its mobility.
Okay.
2 coolant pods are added too, to try to make the mech able to use its primary weapons more effectively.
Yay!
After this, it has a medium pulse laser in the right torso. Then, it is 10 medium lasers, with 5 in the right arm and 5 in the left arm. In an ideal world, using speed and agility, the mech will close with its target and strike them very hard, using coolant pods to induce huge alpha strikes for 2 turns. But that's in an ideal world.
Yeah?
The problem is, the mech exists on battlefields with prolific clan and anti-clan designed battle mechs. Gauss rifles, heavy PPCs, clan ER PPCs, clan LRM systems, and a whole host of other high-impact weapon systems exist on mechs of very similar value to this one. The truth is, it has a very limited threat range, namely 9 hexes. And to be really effective, it has to close to 6 hexes. When it gets that close, it can inflict real damage. But to be that close means to also face a storm of incoming fire.
Yay.
Certainly, this mech might work as a distraction carnifex, as some would call it, but it is an expensive one if that's the case.
Accurate. Highly accurate.
If it loses an arm, or is totally slagged by enemy fire before it can get into its peak range, the mech is basically a giant paperweight.
Yay.
If it does get into range, it has 2 turns of optimal fighting ability, provided it's not maimed. It has a very narrow ability to actually achieve its goal on the battlefield. If it is used well, and if it is ignored, or it is sprung at the right time, it can absolutely be devastating. Or it can end up like a horseman charging machine guns in World War I. Very probably the least capable Gauntlet.
I love the top thing. What if we remade the Gauntlet Prime but made it worse? Yeah, this is peak Steiner.
The C configuration is dependent on hitting enemies with TSEMP. It's very simple. It has an extra heatsink, case 2, a snub-nosed PPC, and a light AC-5 with 2 tons of ammunition. Oh, and it has the aforementioned TSEMP. The snub and light AC-5 make this variant even more undergunned than the Prime. Even with specialist ammunition, this is not a high-performance area for it. TSEMP, however, is one of the most powerful things in the game. If it works. If it hits, it has a chance to disrupt, or even shut down enemy mechs. But there are a lot of ifs there.
Yeah.
And if someone knows you have it, you're probably going to be a target. In other words, this mech suffers in the same way the B does. Only its damage output is significantly lower, and TSEMP isn't guaranteed to work. I really don't like the C configuration, but anything with TSEMP is great. If it works...
Yeah. If it doesn't work, it's stupid. If it does work, it's genius. That's just how things go, Warpugs. That is just how things go. Old soldiers never die.
While the Gauntlet rose from the ashes of the Blakest era, becoming a prominent battle mech in the face of continuous problems endured by the Lion State.
Right, Hawk.
What happened in the meantime to the once great Bushwhacker and its manufacturer, Tharhas Industries? Like many older battle mechs of the setting, the Bushwhacker was supported by contracts and was continuously produced, especially after the rebuilding process was complete. However, its purpose was absorbed and subverted at the same time by newer, more sophisticated battle mechs. Instead of being a premier Lyran medium, it was now just an average Lyran medium, and one which was frankly aging. It had many of the mistakes of early Inner mech development baked into its design at its core, essentially. It also lacked the increasingly desired flexibility many states wanted from omnimechs, even if the costs behind them were not well handled by their users. So what happened? What was left for this now shadow of its former self? Well, more than you think, even if its role was somewhat reduced. Firstly, the Bushwhacker continued service internally for several reasons, but one of them was that it had frequent spare parts. The Gauntlet used huge numbers of components the Bushwhacker did, meaning the two mechs had many interchangeable components and systems.
Nice!
This was a huge bonus in regards to simplifying logistics for the Lyran state, especially after the blackout had occurred. It also lowered the overall cost of manufacturing because these parts were shared. How many of the old models were still more than just supported, but manufactured, is still unknown. However, a decision was made by Tharhas, as well as the Lyran Commonwealth, to further support this battle mech with an updated refit during the 32nd century.
Okay.
The Bushwhacker also could have many advantages over its omnimech cousin, but the biggest boon was that House Steiner did not feel possessive or protective over this aging design, and knew that their new model of the mech would make for an excellent export variant.
Okay.
That's right. Beyond finding use inside of the LCAF, it could be sold to other neutral or friendly successor states, as well as mercenary units, without
I was about to say, do they sell it to the mercs?
much concern. This would be beneficial to entities deemed friendly enough to Lyran interests that they could acquire the mech. First appearing 2 years before the Gauntlet made its full premiere to the Inner Sphere, largely due to enormous delays, I should point out, the BSW X4 would find its way into the hands of the Federated Sons, mercenaries of all stripes, and Clan Wolf in exile. The Wolves appear to have dropped the usage of this mech shortly after Operation Hammerfall, however.
Nice.
In short, this old warrior still had a place within the complex web of manufacturing and production across the Inner Sphere, much like ancient designs before it, from the Griffin to the Wolverine. The Bushwhacker will not go quietly into the night.
You don't need something flashy. You don't need something flashy. You need something that's going to do the job and do it well. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be loaded out with the latest and greatest of equipment. It just has to be, it has to have a decent, ability to engage, not be made out of explodium, and not cost a damn fortune. What is wrong with the Steiners? Hey, Invictus.
Not even after replacements are crafted for them. Tharhas would stand to lose too much by ceasing production, just because Coventry is making their own version. Hell, it's even hard to say that its replacement can outfight it, given how brutal it...
Yeah. How do you make the fucking Lyran Commonwealth broke? How do you do that? How stupid do you have to be? I guess we figured out why tonight, and I didn't need to know, but I guess we kind of figured it out.
Its latest refit truly is. This new variant, the X4, very well may bring more value to the battlefield than its offspring. Sometimes it's just better being simple and reliable, and it's also better to bring enough firepower to make a clanner think twice about engaging you.
Yeah, true, Captain. X4, let's go.
Combining the strongest traits of the original BSW X1 with modern technologies, the BSW X4 Bushwhacker is a real nightmare to contend with on the battlefield, even during the Ill-Clan era. Built to do much the same job as the original, but with vastly more flexibility, and with anti-mech duties in mind, the X4 can absolutely bring the hurt onto the enemies of the Lyran Commonwealth, or those it has exported the mech to. It mirrors the core construction of the Gauntlet in many ways. It uses an endo-steel internal frame, and has the same volume of light ferrofibrous armor. When it comes to cooling, it has 11 double heat sinks, letting it cool 22 per turn just like the original. Unlike the Gauntlet, however, it does not install a light fusion engine, and instead keeps the original's 275 XL power plant. While this may make it more likely to be engine killed, it gives the Bushwhacker more weight, and therefore more striking potential, and it shows. Funnily enough, the mech does install a mask, much like the Gauntlet once more, and this allows it to speed up to make devastating strikes, or to outrun its opponents for short bursts. In order to make this Bushwhacker a successor to the original, and for it to carry far more firepower, its offensive striking power was configured to work at almost every range, rather than just being a standoff attacker. I have to stress, this makes it exceptionally dangerous, though the mech is no longer heat neutral. To start off this arsenal of death, let's go over the one prominent system that just doesn't change. It has an ER large laser mounted in the center torso.
Sweet.
The laser is hot, but it can often be cycled with other weaponry, depending on the range. After this, everything changes. The X1's machine guns are switched out for medium lasers, reducing its ability to fight infantry, but making it much more lethal to enemy mechs that come.
You're 55 tons, you can step on them. Let's go.
Too close. Its right arm mounted autocannon, a long featured staple of the mech, has been supplanted by a plasma rifle. The plasma rifle is a devastating weapon and can be used to cook infantry and tanks, but as mentioned prior in the S2R, it is also ruthlessly effective against enemy battle mechs. It works up to 15 hexes as well, making it a capable dagger to thrust across meaningful distances. It has 20 rounds of ammunition for this system, making its battlefield presence twice as long as the autocannon of old, while also doing the same damage. Finally, it switches out its LRM-5 launchers for MML-5s, giving it access to SRMs and LRMs. Should an enemy be engaged with the same tactics as the original Bushwhacker, they'll be peppered with LRM fire, after being lit up by an ER large laser.
Nice.
If things get in too close, however, instead of just being a long-range skirmisher, its enemies will find themselves struck by a powerful blow, like being hit with a sledgehammer. a plasma rifle, and twin medium lasers, as well as twin SRM-loaded MML5s, will crash into its victim. Even heavy mechs would leer away from being hit by this much force. And this will happen all while the Bushwhacker is cruising at a comfortable speed across the battlefield, or from a perch of its choosing.
Very nice.
The BSW X4 is not only superior to any prior Bushwhacker that has come before it, quite frankly, it is superior to the Gauntlet as well. It is a Dark Age.
That's not really a high bar. That's not really a high bar, to be honest with you. The Gauntlet is garbage.
An Ill-Clan era killer, and an underappreciated one at that. It is the ultimate Bushwhacker.
So here's the thing. Why wouldn't they just have something like this? It's a good, solid 55-ton mech. It's not as expensive. It can engage at all ranges effectively. It doesn't do long range especially well. It doesn't do short range exceptionally well, but it does do both ranges pretty damn good. Okay? Pretty damn good is perfect when you're looking at things. Pretty damn good, not as expensive. Why can't you just mass produce stuff like this? I don't know. I'm an idiot. Don't worry about me. I'm using logic. It would just make sense to just... yeah. Conclusion.
Catching the eye when it first emerged,
True,
the
Mitch.
Bushwhacker started its journey into the world of Battletech as the face of the last great technical readout ever released by FASA, the original company that crafted Battletech, as of the making of this piece 4 decades ago. Certainly other technical readouts followed 3058, but they never received the same love or appreciation. To move back to the subject in question though, the backstory and viability of the mech in question was irrelevant as it took center stage. First from this showing, and then to its appearance in the MechWarrior titles. However, there is far more to the Bushwhacker than its striking appearance. It gives insight into how broken the Lyran state is. It shows the Commonwealth as being a country with almost unlimited money, but limits in know-how or sense. But it also shows that once the Steiners get their act together, they can create incredible things. The Bushwhacker is a superb medium battle mech in its original outing, and its variants often put interesting and fulfilling swerves to the chassis' uses. After the Blakist era, through once more the negligence of its leadership, they tried to remake the wheel, forming instead a crude and unflattering replica of the machine they sought to perfect in the form of the Gauntlet. While the GTL's presence cannot be ignored, nor can its importance to being supplied to the Lyran Commonwealth Armed Forces during their time of need in the latter eras of Battletech, it is yet more fascinating that the original Bushwhacker, built by Tharhes Industries, is the real show stealer in this new age of war. At least, it is the real show stealer amongst combatants. Because in my view, it shows the Lyrans often don't know what valuable machines they have. Instead of embracing the Bushwhacker X4 as the generalist and superb war machine that it is, they dumped it onto the export market, and mostly used them internally due to it sharing parts with their new shiny omnimech. The X4 stomps on that omnimech, to be frank. Whether it be by those seeking to have only min-maxed equipment in real life, or by snobbish Steiners in setting, only looking to waste the most money they can on a dulled, yet multi-purposed knife. The real potential of the Bushwhacker is lost on those who can't see it. It is one of the true greats among medium mechs, and it is an iconic battle mech.
Yeah, Invictus, he told me things today that I didn't need to know. I'm crying inside.
In the world of Battletech.
I didn't need to know half the things I found out tonight. This is how Hermann von Straub got the way he is.
I am neither humble nor courteous, and so will not couch my intent with flowery or eloquent phrases. Instead, hear me plain. I will kill anyone who challenges my claim to the Archonship, and I will torture anyone who supports any of my rivals for the throne.
Calm down, bro. Calm down.
I hope I have made myself understood. Archon,
Wouldn't it be funnier if he had a voice that was like really high pitched?
I am neither humble nor courteous, and I will not couch my intent with flowery or elegant phrases.
Wouldn't it? I'm just saying, they would all be snickering.
Claudius Steiner, the Cruel. Thank you all for joining me here today. This was quite an interesting script to go through. It took me about a week to get this all together, and I actually changed part of my opinion on the Bushwhacker in this.
Don't get me started, Eleanor. I'm still traumatized over the grave mine.
Originally, I really didn't like the X1, but through experience, through kind of readjusting my own orientation on how I view mechs and their value, I realized it's actually secretly a much more brilliant design than you might really give it credit for, barring the fact that it has an original AC-10 instead of an LB-10X.
He hasn't gotten over that yet.
Which you can tell in this video I clearly did not like.
A little bit.
But beyond that, I really appreciate the nuances in the backstory of the Bushwhacker.
Have not,
I really
Invictus,
think
have not.
It has an interesting backstory, it has interesting gameplay tabletop mechanics, and I think it's actually quite a good mech. I think that it's definitely one of the better Lyran medium mechs out there. I do need to give a couple shoutouts here in the outro, just for a few people who helped me out. First of all, thank you to the 3 players who helped me take the gameplay footage for the Bushwhacker over the 3 encounters that I used in this video. Another thank you also goes to the modding community for MechWarrior, who inserted the Bushwhacker into the game,
Nice.
which obviously we used in this video. So that is one of the many submods to yet another mech lab. Thank you very much to the Yamal community for creating cool things. Also, as a quick aside, as per usual, in the top pinned comment below, you will find links to all of the resources I used to craft this video. And now this is the part where I will remind all of you, if you enjoyed your time here, don't forget to smash the like button. YouTube likes it when I say that word.
Apparently they do. They like the word smash. They like the word smash the like button. I'm not sure why. I'm not understanding of that at all.
I prefer to say others. Also, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. I put up new videos quite frequently. They are all Battletech and MechWarrior centric, so I sincerely hope that you'll join us on this journey. You won't be disappointed. Next, I want to thank all the YouTube channel members who support what I do here.
Thank you,
I say it all
members.
the time, and I really mean it. This content is really only made possible because of viewers like you. And with that being said, what do you all think of the Bushwhacker? What do you all think of the Gauntlet?
It sucks.
Am I right? Am I wrong? Let me know in the comment section below.
Okay, so the Bushwhacker, I actually like it. I actually like it. It's an iconic looking mech. I gotta admit, it's an iconic looking mech. I really do like it. Now, the problem is, it's a Steiner mech. That's the problem. The Steiners, I have noticed, tend to make stuff really, really badly when it comes to their own stuff. And to be honest with you, they just, it's like they don't, well, it ain't like nothing. They just don't care. They just don't care, to be honest with you. When you exist to flex your industrial might, and that comes at the cost of common sense, that's a problem. That's a real problem. And every single war that I have seen up until now, which the only ones I've really gotten like in depth on have been the First and Second Secession War, the Reunification War, and pretty much the Age of War. When the Lyrans fight, they win due to a combination of luck and simply tonnage. It's honestly just kind of strange to see them, and if they had actually a decent military leader, they could conquer the Inner Sphere before, of course, they went bankrupt. And how do you do that? I still am saying, how do you do that? War is a sport for the Lyrans. Wait till I review the Zeus. Oh, good God. The bulk of the military planner's only plan is Wall of Steel. Warpugs. It's an idle idea rather than a brutal reality. And see, that's the thing. The Steiners, it just doesn't seem like they take this crap seriously. The Caretans, on the other hand, take it way too seriously. I'm just saying, they take it way too seriously. And all the while, Liao's just trying to find out who stabbed itself in the back this time. Guys. Wow. The mere fact that they superseded, they replaced a mech like this one with something that is less effective, less heavily armed, and is just faster. It doesn't make much sense, but there it is. And you could replace half of the Steiner mechs with cheaper, more effective models, and they'd be just fine. They make enough. They have the ability to make good mechs. They just keep on putting their money into the wrong ones. It doesn't really surprise me, to be honest with you. It really doesn't surprise me. House Davion is out white knighting. That is kind of... House Davion does one of two things. They either are the Mad King inside the throne room screaming, burn them all. Kurita is halfway up, like Kurita, halfway buried inside of their territory. And they're like, you know what? I think you should call me the First Lord. Why don't you become the First Lord of New Avalon, dude? First, before you do that, I don't know if you noticed, but the Caretans are getting ready to land mechs. I don't know. I'm leaving it. I'm leaving it alone. Somebody just needs to teach the Caretans about anime, and then we'll all be fine. We'll all be fine. Warpugs, I'm going to head out from here. Go on over and check out Big Red Tech for it. And just, dude, hit the subscribe button for him. Put the like button on it as well. Kurita is insane, but I actually like them. The longer I'm in Battletech, the more I'm actually starting to actually like Kurita. I like to hate them. I like to hate them because they seem like half the time they're the only competent faction out there at some points that is actually doing things that make relative sense until their leader gets out decides he's going to open up, the cockpit of his mech and take a breather out standing in the middle of the open field waiting for somebody to blast him. No, Liao sucks. Warpugs, I'll catch you guys next time. Big Red, feel better. It takes a little bit of time to heal, I know. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, all channel members and patrons. And I hope you guys have a good night, all right? Glory to the Free Rolls League. Glory to Merrick. The only threat to America is America. And Catgirls are canon. Later, Warpugs.